Good morning and welcome everyone to the table. Very different host today. I'm Sam Eaton. It's lovely to see you all here. I'm standing in for Barbie today. And I will be introducing our fabulous guest shortly. But before I do so, I would love to just mention our sponsor, Daily Pay. Many of you here will have companies and be working with organizations with 500 employees and above. Daily Pay is something that is superb for organizations such as this. What is it? Well, it's an app and it helps employees access their unpaid wages. Did you know that overdraft fees alone right now are costing the average American $1,200 a year? It's a lot of money. But by having access to your unearned wages, it can really, really help. So without further ado, who have we got on the table today? We have got the fabulous Paula. Paula Fulghum is the founder of Innovate HR and the Innovate HR Travel Club. I've known Paula for a couple of years now, and she's one of the inspirational HR consultancy leaders in the field. She's used technology to embrace and help deliver her services for many years. Her organization is ahead of her time. But what I'd love Paula to talk about today, and she's going to explain a little bit more about, is the travel club. We're living in a world today where there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of nervousness. Our well-being and our mental health is now more important than ever. Again, Paula's ahead of her time. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Paula. Paula, welcome today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. This is exciting.
It is exciting, isn't it? I think
Yes.
Barbie's a little bit nervous about letting us loose, but hey, I said it'll be absolutely fine.
She didn't know what she did when she gave you the reins, did she?
She didn't. I've got to hand it back.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting, like I said, and I love to talk about HR in general, obviously the travel club, and happy to chat about whatever you would like.
Fabulous. Well, I'd love you to start with just telling us a little bit about your background, the inspiration behind Innovate HR, and then let's talk about the travel club.
Absolutely. So I have been in human resources for over 25 years. I started off my career working for Time Inc., which publishes Time magazine and a lot of Sports Illustrated and a lot of other magazines, and moved on from there. And that was really during the dot-com boom era, when attracting good employees, or really a warm body to put in an open position, was almost impossible to do. And that was my first introduction into human resources. Very similar to what we're going through right now with the Great Resignation. So it was very, very difficult to find anyone to work in these positions. And so we had to be extremely creative in our approaches to finding those folks. We also, in that role, learn the value of retaining employees. It was so incredibly hard to get them at that time, that we really wanted to make sure that once we got them, we did everything we could to keep them. And then I moved on and worked for the Forbes magazine, for a period of time, and was the HR person that launched Forbes.com back when magazines went online. So that will share with you my age. It was during the era of what will this look like if a magazine goes online, and will we pay people to click on it? So it was a very different time. And then I was in human resources during 9/11, when the economy crashed shortly thereafter, and experienced that from a very junior part of my career, where I saw the uptick of we can't find enough people, and then of course the downside of that, which was the era of letting employees go, and a very difficult time financially for the country. I eventually moved on and worked for a global payroll company in sales, and learned a lot about technology during that period, and sold small to medium-sized companies, and then worked with large organizations that did more enterprise level type technology. And one thing that inspired me during that period, while I've really missed human resources and managing HR for employees, I also saw a need in the marketplace for technology for small companies, small to medium-sized businesses, to be able to use technology, integrate technology in their environments, but also have the service that that they needed, and the know-how and the power behind that. Because as we all know, technology is only as good as the person who's operating it. So you can have beautiful technology with all kinds of bells and whistles, but if you don't have the person behind the technology that understands how to put it together, how to make it work, how to customize it, and how to implement it, and also how to use it from day to day, it's really not as beneficial. I still have a new car that I bought outside in my driveway as we speak, and it's got all kinds of computer operated bells and whistles and things. I can even start it from my smartphone. I still have not figured out how to operate that vehicle. So while it all looks great in the sales process, I'm still just turning it on and off and trying to get to where I'm going. So after that point, I started Innovate HR about 13 years ago, and we service clients as small as 10 employees up to 800 employees. But our average size client is around, is going to be under 100 employees. And there's a real need in that marketplace, because those employers typically aren't large enough to have an entire HR department or an HR director, and also have the need for the know-how in terms of finding the best technology for them, and then of course customizing it and implementing the technology around them. So we started an HR outsourcing company 13 years ago that really catered to that expertise, but also service. I think service today in the in the market in general, or any market, is a luxury. I think VIP service is hard to come by, and we definitely focus on that at Innovate HR, and provide that approach not only to our clients, but to our clients' employees directly, because we believe that attracting employees is difficult to do, and once you find them, you need to keep them, and keeping them is top of mind for us. We know that if that employee has a good experience with someone on our team, which serves as their HR point of contact, that makes that experience working for that client better, and they have a good relationship, and we understand that we're a critical part of that relationship between the client, the employer, and the employee. So we really do focus on that from a service standpoint. So it's a little bit about me, and a little bit about Innovate HR in general.
Fabulous. And it's interesting, because one of the points you mentioned there was being in the world of HR in the time of 9/11. And I've heard many people in recent times actually compare what we're going through now in terms of the fear, the unknown, the what's next, which obviously is part of the unknown. There are many comparisons. Are you seeing the same in the marketplace right now?
You know, it's interesting. I feel like I'm seeing it. And some days I feel like I'm the only person seeing it. And I think it's because I lived through that in such a dramatic way. After 9/11, I was in New York City. I saw one of the planes hit, and I was part of a company that in turn, shortly thereafter, had to lay off close to 300 employees in a matter of days to survive. And so I think I have that ingrained in my brain, that we have to be very careful about economic times, and we have to be planning for that and thinking about that. And I'll never forget, about 3 years ago, I had a meeting with my entire staff because I looked around the room with our staff, which had a median age of 30 at the time. And I realized in looking around the room that no one that worked for me at the time, except for the exception of one or two people, had actually gone through that time period and had ever lived during the time of a recession or economic downturn, unless they were very, very small. But they'd never worked or lived through that experience. And so I had an entire meeting around what does an economic downturn look like from an HR standpoint? What does that mean to HR? What happens in HR, and what should we be focusing on in a downturn? And surely enough, I think it was about 6 months later is when the pandemic hit. And there were a couple people that worked for me at the time that called me and said, I never would have realized, in that meeting, but you were talking about this 6 months ago, and it was almost like you were predicting it. So I think right now we have to be careful. We have to be top of mind and planning. And I'm not a person that wants to operate out of fear, but I think being responsible and fiscally responsible so that you're worrying about the whole and not a few is very, very important from a business standpoint right now. So that is something that I have top of mind. I am talking with our clients about just in terms of planning and strategy on, what do raises look like this year? What do benefits look like this year? What are creative things that we can do in order to continue to attract and retain our employees, but also motivate them and find rewarding opportunities within work and life balance so that they enjoy working here, but we're not giving raises every time someone asks for them because we're terrified of the Great Resignation. I think there is a sincere fear right now about this Great Resignation. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do as professional HR folks to combat that and say, it's not all about money. If you ask an employee why they love working somewhere, money is never the top thing that they say. So I think we have to remind ourselves and remember that and find ways around that fear of the Great Resignation, while we're also looking at a potential economic downturn or inflation as it is right now. So,
yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because the whole reason that the table has come about is Barbie's huge belief and drive to help senior HR folk be recognized and to earn their place at the top table, hence the table. And right now, my goodness, we've talked about burnout for the last 2 years, and actually how the HR community has been severely beaten up, right? Because we're the ones that have to keep going. We're the ones that have to have greater resilience than everyone else. And yet our growing community needs to continue to embrace and support one another. And that actually brings us on, I think, quite nicely to the travel club and the whole concept behind it of well-being, which, my goodness, that's much needed now. Tell us a bit more about that, Paula.
So I have always been a travel enthusiast, and I find that my best ideas always come when I'm not at work. And it takes me 2 or 3 days to fully disconnect from work. So I'm not an advocate of long weekends because just at the second that I'm disconnecting, I have to turn around and come back to work and think about work. And my husband will tell you that he can see a transition on day 3 anytime we travel somewhere, that he finally looks at me and says, okay, finally you're in the zone. So I think that, especially, in Europe, obviously, you guys know how to holiday better than Americans do. And I've done a lot of travel in Europe over the last several years. And what I love so much is that people take, a month off at a time, and they really truly invest in that experience. and involve themselves in a local experience and really love where they travel and learn everything about it. And that travel has incented me to come up with a way that employees can find life balance. But in order to take those trips and travel the way that I think that people learn and enrich their lives by learning about new cultures and new people and broadening their horizons, it takes money to do that. And the number one reason, and I did a lot of research years ago, and I was astounded at the scientific research that is available at our fingertips with Google, that you can Google what are the benefits for employees who take time off from work. And you'll find a plethora of information that is scientific studies that have been done by the American Heart Association and cancer research and all kinds of things that will tell you the health benefits that come from people disengaging from work where they have life balance. The problem with being able to disengage is that your employer might be able to give you paid time off and offer, great paid time off plans. However, if you can't afford to travel when you have paid time off, then you can't really experience those things. The other thing, with us going, as a workforce, largely going remote, you and I are Zooming from our homes right now. Now more than ever, and I realized in the last 2 years during the pandemic, where I've never worked from home, never liked working from home, and then suddenly was working from home, of course, during the pandemic. But then we made the decision as a company to go 100% remote a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. That when you work from home and you're in your home all the time, a staycation is no longer an option because you have got to get out of the house in order to have a vacation. Otherwise, you're going to be too tempted to come back to your computer and your office, and you're just not able to remove yourself. So I think that with those two things combined, especially like you mentioned, from just all industries, but from an HR standpoint, we've been beaten up over the last 2 years, and we continue to do so with the, we're now on this side, hopefully, of the pandemic, but we're now facing the Great Resignation with a downward economy. So that's the next wave that's coming. And how do we manage that? And how do we deal with a balance of that? And so there's always something from an HR standpoint, but especially in the last couple of years, it's been difficult. So I wanted to find a way that people could afford to travel and do things in their normal daily lives that help them balance their day, but also something that an employer could offer that was an incentive that would help attract employees and obviously retain them. So selfishly, I love to travel, so it benefits me as well. So there is how the travel club was born. So
fantastic. And now that this is something that's been brought to life and people are interacting with it, how have some of these organizations embraced it as part of their well-being strategies?
So there's some interesting things. The way that the travel club works is, an employer can pay for it, or employees can elect it, just as they do any other benefit with their company benefit offerings. There are a lot of advantages in terms of where they can go, traveling, hotels, flights, activities where you go and travel, perks and programs. But the big thing about the travel club also is that every single month an employee participates in the travel club. They accrue points just like you would accrue points for paid time off or time for paid time off on a monthly basis. So It works it's similar. It's not a credit card by any stretch, but it's kind of the same concept of a credit card in the sense of you're getting points every time you use your Amex. So the travel club is the same. The employer can put as many points into that on a monthly basis that they would like to. Then they can also put additional points. So they can add points for bonuses, or they can add points for contests. If you have a sales team and you want to offer a reward, then you can add points to their vacation balance. I see things all the time on HR forums and chats that I'm on where people are looking for gift ideas to send to the employees for a holiday, or they're looking for, they're sending a ham for, all the employees for the holiday or something like that. This is a way that that employers can add points that matter, or add money instead of paying out, shipping and handling to deliver a ham or a box of goodies that may or may not be exciting to some employees. I don't know about you, but I get lots of baskets, and a lot of those things still sit on shelves in my pantry because we get all kinds of random things that we don't eat, which are lovely, but they're not really useful for us. And so I think that this is just it's like a gift certificate that you can hand to an employee, and they can have travel points in their bucket. And that way the employee can decide, and they can use their travel points so they can decide, I want to use this towards my flight to the Bahamas, or I want to use this towards that hotel stay in Florida, that for spring break or whatever it may be. So it gives the employees an opportunity to really use that money to connect with their families and encourage them to take that time off. I think employers who use this strategy for giving points to their employees are really showing their employees that it matters to them that they have work-life balance. A lot of employees feel guilty for requesting time off or taking time off. We have unlimited paid time off at Innovate HR. And I have seen it time and time again where someone feels guilty for requesting time off. And it's not because we're doing anything that makes them feel guilty. It's because it's a natural instinct to think, well, we're really busy time. I don't know that I should take that time off. We obviously want people to be mindful of deadlines and seasons and things like that. But I think people have a natural tendency to feel guilty. And I think the more we can promote things that say to our staff, we are not only encouraging you to take this time off, but we're going to give back to you so that you can actually go somewhere meaningful with the time off. So that's really the biggest strategy, the best strategy I think that I've seen around the travel club benefits. The other aspect that gets sort of that is part of the travel club that gets left off it never gets talked about is the perks program. So there is a perks program that is part of the travel club as well, and it's a whole there's lots of companies that offer perks programs, but this is part of the program. So you can get discounts on gas. You can get discounts on an oil change. You can get discounts at the grocery store. You print out the coupon or you download it on your phone with an app, and you take it and the store scans it. And there are, thousands upon thousands of different things that you can take advantage of in terms of discounts. So right now, with the economy being the way that it is, and gas prices and all kinds of things, there are very useful and meaningful benefits to the travel club that are far beyond just the travel part. It really does help day-to-day life as well. So,
and that's the other part, that when you and I first started talking about this, my ears really pricked up. Bearing in mind, there's a huge percentage of the population that, even before what's happening right now, would trade their 2-week holiday per year for the cash.
Yeah.
And that's something that, thankfully, with things and concepts like the travel club, things like, thank goodness, daily pay as well, are able to help the common worker have a better way of life, rather than racking up that $1,200 dollars a year through, overdraft fees, right, or the huge expenditure we're seeing now on gas. There's another piece about giving people the opportunity to have a holiday that they otherwise wouldn't have had. Are you seeing stuff around this coming through, especially now?
I definitely, I have clients that we see that, we manage their payroll. And so we see those things coming in where it's part of their policy and employees are allowed to cash in their vacation time. I'm with you. I always cringe when I see that because I'm sitting there thinking, don't you need to take time off? On the flip side of that, in a lot of those scenarios, these are very, I see this more around the holiday season, the Christmas season, where they're using that money to buy holiday gifts and things like that for their family. So that's where I tend to see a lot of that. I think, it's an employer choice in terms of what they want to do and what they want to offer. I think the fact that they make that a choice for their employees is good. I think that giving them the option is good because some people just need money to pay the mortgage or their rent or buy groceries for their families just to get through. And so when I talk about vacations and traveling, I want to be mindful of that because I think that not everybody can do that, but I think that they can if the employer really puts incentive around their taking time off. And I think that the medical research that has been done matters and it makes a difference. But there's also business cases for employees who take time off. So there are a tremendous amount of Harvard studies and that can be Googled or I can share them. I've read a lot of them where production lines improve where when they force 1 week off, when they force 1 week off and when they come back, the production line actually operates more efficiently and faster. There are studies showing that airline pilots who were forced to take time off have an extremely different heart rate when they get back and actually, because they can only fly so many hours. There's business case studies done on law firms that that were forced to take time off because they're so incented on billable hours and they're encouraged and rewarded and promoted based on the number of billable hours that they produce, that they're actually really hurting their own company at the same time because burnout is a real thing and people can only do so much at that level and that pace for so long. So I think that while it's great that an employer would offer a situation where someone can cash in their time, maybe there's a new way to do that rather than cashing in their time, because the time off, if the employees don't take time off, it actually hurts the business. And there are plenty of studies and business cases to prove that. So I think forcing time off, I've forced employees to take time off before. There are some people that will not take time, will not take it. They are worried to death to take it, and I have forced it. And you can see them a week later when they come back that they're different. Their mindset is better. They're different. There's some people that they won't stop. You have to force them. And I think as employers, we have to be responsible for that and the work-life balance. If we want to go the long run, if you're looking to go the short run, instant gratification, then sure, work people to death. But if you're looking to go the long run, then you have to provide benefits and resources that incent and encourage and make employees feel like it's okay. You need to get away. You need to take this time, because I know when you do take this time, you're going to come back better. You're going to have more ideas. You're going to have refreshed approach. Your attitude's going to be better. Everything's going to be better. You're going to be happier at home. When you're happier at home, you're happier at work. Everyone's happier when you get back, including us. So take the time.
Please take the time.
Yeah.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because I often talk about we're now living in a world where we have a human 360, right? As before you'd see, and Paula, you and I have talked about this, you walk through the door or someone walks through the door at work and you will only see that specific paradigm of the person. You have no concept of that human 360. And again, this is putting the human side back into, you know, employer branding. It's a word that's bandied around. Sometimes I feel that some organizations just tick a box, and this shows a real commitment to caring about your people. You've
Yeah.
done a lot of research, as you said earlier, in terms of the benefit side of this, the well-being side of this. What was your standout moments? What pieces of research did you really take to heart and almost take your breath away when you read and just went, wow, I had no idea?
Yeah, one of the one that really always comes to my mind is the American Heart Association did a study on men and women who take vacation every year and heart attacks. And so there's a really nice study on this, and basically the study indicated at the end that that men who take at least one meaningful, and meaningful is the trick. Meaningful means you're disengaged, you don't have your laptop, you're not answering work calls, you are in the moment, in the vacation, as you should be, and you're gone. So men who take one meaningful vacation a year actually had, and I'd have to look at the numbers, but I think off the top of my head, I think it was a 20% decline in risk from having a heart attack. And for women, women apparently need more vacation. So women need women who take at least two meaningful vacations per year were actually 8 times less likely to have a heart attack than women who don't. So we need more time away, apparently, than men do. But for the women on this meeting, I'm sure that's no surprise. So that's one of the most eye-opening studies that I found. There was a study done on, like I mentioned, on pilots, and they studied like their hearts and their heart statistics on that. So I'd have to pull those numbers back out for you, but there's a plethora. You can just Google health benefits of travel studies, or vacation studies done on vacation, and there's just a ton of them out there. So but the heart one most surprising to me. So
That's huge, isn't it? That is actually quite frightening when you think about, so our society today in so many areas almost praises those of us who are what I call hero working. Back in the 80s and 90s, and gosh, I've just aged myself dreadfully there. You'd see that so much, right? It was,
yes.
and you see some of the shows now going back there, and all these, swanky time legal shows where they're showing someone leaving the office at 10 o'clock and someone saying, to the other, you're leaving early, and it's, come on.
Yes.
And that just reinforces how dangerous that really is.
It does, and I'm part of that same era that you are, and we were patted on the back and rewarded for working late at night and leaving at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I did all of that, and I was very proud of myself at the time for doing it, and I think as I think that's an era thing, but I also think that's an experience and an age thing as well. That I think that when we're more junior in our career, and that we feel that is necessary. And I would say that when you're more junior in your career, that you have to put I will be the first one to say I think you have to pay your dues and really learn and progress, but not at the sacrifice of yourself. And definitely times have changed, and I think employees in general this day and age, they expect work-life balance. I think the workforce has changed, obviously, for women, and they expect work-life balance. And if you don't provide it as a leader, then you've missed the boat completely now, unfortunately. And I think that we as leaders, like you mentioned, we used to pat ourselves on the back for working until, and it took me a long time to get over that mindset. And I'm very appreciative. I hired an employee just a number of years ago who said to me in her interview when I offered her the job, every day I'm going to go work out during my lunch break, and I'm going to be gone for about an hour, hour and a half. This is when we're still in the office. And I remember looking at her thinking, gosh, this is bold of her to say in this meeting. And then I thought, and nobody else was doing that because nobody else felt encouraged to do that, including myself. And I remember thinking, well, gosh, why am I not going to work out every day? As the owner of the company, why am I not going to do that every day during my lunch break? I'm feeling kind of stupid right now. And I really appreciate her boldness for having that conversation with me. And she's my right hand now, and she's the leader on my team, actually, because it was a shift in mindset. It was a shift to say, okay, I have to get over this. If I don't get over this, nobody else is going to get over this. So, I take full responsibility up until that point for people thinking, they've got to work themselves to death in order to move ahead. But what you realize along the way is they do great for a year or two and they're completely burned out. So you have to, if you want to go the long run, you really have to make changes. And I think that the travel club is a big part of that in a new way, an exciting way. Who doesn't love to travel?
Oh, exactly. And we've got a great question from Alexander who says, with unlimited paid time off, how much time off do people actually take?
So I hear pluses and negatives about that on lots of forums that I'm on. I did a report several months ago to look at the average time that our folks take, and our employees are eligible for it after 2 years. So before they've been with us for 2 years, they have a normal 2 to 3 week situation. Once they've hit their second year anniversary, then they go to unlimited paid time off. And actually they take on an average about between 4 to 5 weeks of time off per year. They also get 11, I think it's 10 or 11 paid company holidays. They also get a birthday holiday. During the summer, we do summer fun Fridays. So that means that every other Friday they get to leave at 1 p.m. and they they have a teammate for the summer, and that's their partner. And so the partner has to be there and take care of their stuff when they're gone. And if they have anything serious or there's a big issue or things, they have to make decisions on who's going to do what, or, come into the office. But overall, we have a lot of paid time off at Innovate HR.
But here's the question. And I'd love you to share this with everyone on the call today, but it's the benefits and the output that's given you as a business owner.
Yeah, I am not easy to work for. And I think that anyone who's ever worked with me will tell you that the expectations are high. I think that the time off and the work-life balance has given me as a leader the ability to say, I'm going to give you all of these things, but I'm going to expect all of these things in return. And so I feel okay doing that because I feel like I'm giving and I'm expecting. And so, work hard, play hard is our theme at Innovate HR. When you're at work, you're on. You're expected to be working and work hard, and the expectations are high. But when you're off, which is obviously we offer a lot of paid time off, have a wonderful time, and we hope, unless there's some crazy emergency, we definitely won't bother you. So we really try hard. The only person that you will ever see really emailing or doing things on vacation, for the most part, and there are exceptions to this, but for the most part is me. And they're all apologizing to me if they're emailing me or texting me on vacation. They really try hard not to, but I'm a workaholic. I mean, even when I'm away, it takes me 3 days to stop. So for the first 3 days, you can still get me.
I love that. And I share that. Now, there is something about it being your own organization. So as much as we want our teams and our people to have that work-life balance, actually it's really hard for us to take our own medicine. I know I'm sometimes really proud of the fact, and it's wrong, that, you know, during busy months I will regularly do 16-hour days, and, you know, my team are just like, Sam, will you just stop now? And I need to be conscious of the fact that my team feel they need to answer me. They want to answer me because, you know, they're enjoying the moment, but it's just wrong. So there's also something in this, isn't there, about, okay, just because I'm sending an email or I'm sending a message, actually, do I need to send it now? Should I put it on some kind of timer? And I've worked out how to do that with my emails. So
Yeah.
say the team don't get it at silly o'clock, but they get it when they come into work. There's a piece around that in here as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that's very important because what obviously you leaders, what we model for people is what they're going to do in return. And I agree with you 100%. It's just something that, we need a sticky note on our forehead that reminds us that, I compete with myself. I hold myself to very high standards. I am not competing with anyone else. But it can often look that way. I'm really just, I'm in my own world and my own planet when I'm sending emails at night or things like that. And I have worked hard as well to use that delay thing on my Outlook. Right. And I don't like it when I actually respond accordingly when I get emails from my staff at night or on weekends. I will say, why are you emailing me right now? Stop emailing me right now. This can wait until Monday. So as a leader, I have worked hard in the past. I'd be like, wow, this person's really taking care of this on a Saturday. Kudos to them. Now I'm like, please don't do that. I mean, it's not necessary. This can wait unless we're in the human resources business. And I have said to my staff for many, many years, we are not an emergency room and we are not saving lives unless someone gets hurt. Obviously in a client's employee gets hurt in a workers' compensation accident or something like that, which is extremely rare. And they need to be rushed off to the emergency room. That's something that does. Sure, absolutely. Drop what you're doing, and get on it. But 99% of the time for us, that's really not the case. And it can wait until tomorrow, or it can wait until Monday. So we have to do it too. We have to be top of mind.
We have to do it. I know. And it's
easier said than done.
It is.
Right? We're in the consulting business. It's easier to tell everybody what they should do, isn't it?
It's so hard. And there is this whole piece around it is when you enjoy it and you're really into it. I mean, my husband will often say, but you don't even look tired.
Well, that's good.
I know. Love him. Paula, thank you so much for your time today. Just your honesty about things, sharing your story and your journey and your views on what's happening in our world, and for talking more about the Travel Club. My views on it, which is why I was so excited to have you on the show today. And Barbie was gutted she couldn't be here. And I've always described it as being, a benefit of the 21st century. And it's one of a few great benefits that are coming forward and being embraced by more and more employers and organizations out there. I hope it continues to get the take up it has. It's much needed, particularly in the world that we're living in today. To our guests, thank you for being here today. We really do appreciate it. And Barbie will return next week. We will obviously be putting this on YouTube shortly. I'm going to ask Michelle, who's always here and helpful, to share the video that we've got on the Travel Club as well, because it really brings it to life. Thank you, everybody. Lovely to see you. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.